So hey there, welcome back to We Don't Do Boring, a podcast by me, Andy Hancock, and this is my spot on the little green and blue dot. Yes. So back to last week's episode, and what did I say? I said that this show is all about 6 things. Yes, there's always a number. 6 things: experience, time, money, compromise, balance, and most of all, communication. This is why I'm doing this show, to communicate with my many people I know around the planet. So what are we going to talk about? Well, Matisse said something last week. He didn't say it, I did. That thinking outside the box. He said he doesn't think outside the box. He thinks he thinks of what he could use the box for. And that's exactly how I think. So we're kindred spirits on that one. But so what's this about? Well, that's easy. Instead of thinking about what you could use the box for, why don't you live in one? Yeah, this show is about container homes. Yes, and why can I talk about container homes if I build sandcastles? That's because I built a container home. Yes, really. And the journey started a long, long time ago. But mainly started because I looked around. I wanted to build my own place many years ago. And I looked around at house design and talked to all sorts of different people and realized very quickly, actually, that house design was flawed. Basically part of a gigantic system to sell you more stuff and to convince you to buy more and more systems which overlap on top of each other, aren't very efficient. And they don't tackle the core problem. And the core problem is that you built your house wrong in the first place. So, but hey, if you're happy with what you've got, that's great. And I'm happy for you. But I wasn't really happy with what I could find. Everything was so poorly built and cheaply done that it didn't inspire me at all. So I thought, right, research. So I did research and I became very boring about it, as my sons will tell you. But so the journey started over 10 years ago with discovering design was flawed. And then I looked into containers because I love recycling, and I thought, wow, cool containers. And I looked at cool container homes and they were fantastic. But there was never much backstory. It's all about the glossy, shiny, what are you doing? Oh, I'm putting the door in today. Or they don't explain any of the back stuff. And, oh yeah, we did this wall, and then whoosh, this wall goes up. Yeah, well, you don't see anything. You don't see what's involved. So I can tell you all about that. There are only 3 reasons you would even consider building a container home, and they are to live in it, which is was my plan originally, and then to rent it or to sell it. And they're 3 different builds, obviously, because they're costed differently. And math never lies. I keep saying this, don't I? But it does. I just can't get it to lie to me. It won't. It just, I heard a great expression years ago online. It said, what do you mean I've got money? I've no money. I've still got checks left. So, yes, math doesn't lie. So that's what we're going to talk about, the backstory, and we're going to talk about the fundamentals. So the fundamentals, live in it, sell it, rent it, followed by my fundamentals was the simplicity of it. I wanted a simple life. The mobility of it. I wanted to be able to move my house around, and I thought it was a great idea, especially when I saw a container on the back of a wrecker. And I thought a wrecker truck that picks your car off the street. I thought, wow, I could just move it around like that. But that's a 20-foot container, so you have to think about what you want. And space, I wanted to live more simply. I just don't need all the stuff that I've got. And, I live fairly simply, and yeah, it's just too much. So let's talk about the physical side of it. Nobody explains the backstory. Whatever home you're going to build, there's a baseline cost. And the baseline costs are the land, the water, supplying the water, whether you do it, you're going to collect rainwater, or whether you're going to connect to the main. There's still a cost to it. Look up at how much a 2,000-gallon tank costs. Easy. Plus all the pipe work, plus the associated structure you've got to put it on. Sewer, whatever system of sewer you're using, you have to pay for that, and they're not cheap, but you're building for the future. Electric or gas, whichever way you decide to go, you've got to have some electricity, but it can be run off batteries. But if you go the battery inverter 12-volt route, that can be more expensive than the main. So there's a lot of different things going on here, but those are the base costs: land, water, sewer, electric, gas. Okay? Plus all your groundwork, whatever you do, whatever you want to build, whether it's pier and beam, concrete slab, or put a container on the floor, you still have to raise it up and put it on some stone. What do you do if you're sensible, dear? Anyway, so, and then that leads to other things. The size of the container. Now you can get them in 20s, 20-foot containers, 40-foot containers, 53-foot extra long containers, which are big ones, and they come in two sizes: standard, which is 8'6" to the ceiling. All dimensions I quote are exterior, so 8'6" to the ceiling, but a high cube container comes in a 9'6", and that gives you great options. I didn't go that way because open siders, which I bought, are very hard to find in 9'6". So I bought standard 8'6" containers, but I bought open siders, which means there's a door at the end as well as the entire side opens up. So if you want to see pictures of all this, it's all on my Facebook page, South Texas Container Home, and the link is below. And while you're there, press the subscribe button and gently press the notification bell. Don't smash it. So anyway, so that's what I looked into. So there's lots of different sizes. So the size depends on the configuration you want and how you want to live. I mean, I'm an outdoors guy, so I wanted to just, eat, sleep, rest, shower, feed myself, and that's it. I'm good. Because I haven't got kids running around. I haven't got other people to think about. So that's why I configured it. Also, I'm old. This is great for a reason, dear. Right? So I'm old, and I didn't want stairs. I don't want to do stairs every day. Although I probably should have done, because the Keep Fit regime, doing my steps every day. Yeah, steps. Right. So may well have done me some good, but no, I didn't want to construct it, because once you go up in the air, you involve a lot of other machines, cranes and all sorts of things, and then you have to weld everything together. Just like I bought what's mine's called a single trip open sider, which was a single tripper, which I did one trip, got back to the United States, and then was put out for sale. And it has a door all the way across the side, because I thought, why do I want to buy a box that's sealed and weather tight and then spend all my time cutting holes in it? Whereas I could buy a box with existing big doors, which I could then still use as weather tight, and do it that way. So that's the way I chose to go. They cost a lot more money, but they were well worth it, because they gave me many more options, including when the doors are open, and I don't keep the doors closed when there's people in it. No. One of the first questions I had: how do I get out? How do you get out of what? The container. If you shut the doors on me, how do I get out? Right. Okay. Whatever. And yes, it's there's something going on in there somewhere. And so, so I wanted mine to be sealed because they're weatherproof. So I did all my framing and everything else inside. Obviously, I had to cut some holes in it for ventilation and AC, because I live in South Texas, where it's very hot and very humid. So we had to put ventilation in and AC, and also extraction for the cooking side in the kitchen. I bought two 20-foot containers and put them parallel to each other with about a 25-foot gap in the middle, so I can have a deck and an outdoor space which the wind blows through gently and provides a breeze, and it's lovely. So I use the physical systems of the earth to help me with my design. I also put roofs on my containers because they're boxes and they're sitting in the Texas heat. So if you don't get the radiation off the top of that box, it's going to heat up real fast. So there's the math not lying. If you heat the box up, you spend more money on AC. If you cover the box with a roof, which costs money, you will then use a fraction of the electricity to run the AC, because you've cooled down the surface of the box, or kept it at a steady temperature even. Okay? Yes, very simple, dear. It's just physics, really. Convection, conduction, radiation, all those good things. All right? So that's what you do. I also looked at the cost, what the cost of the 20-footers was. And the transport, I mean, the transport has gone to be outrageous levels now. I was quoted a 20-footer transported to my house 140 miles away, and it was going to cost $1,400, $10 a mile. So the transport cost is outrageous. There are cheaper solutions I've found, but that was what I was quoted by the company, and it was, wow. Almost, as much as the container. It was crazy. So anyway, the container was about $2,900, by the way, just to let you know. And great friends over at United Rentals. Go see Margi at United Rentals in Robstown. And what she doesn't know about containers, you're right on a matchstick. So there you go. So that's what I was thinking about. And my lifestyle is outdoor. So I chose that configuration to suit my lifestyle. And so the size of the container and what it's going to take to put it together, weld it, fix it, put doors, all the stuff, the math never lies. You have to configure it the way you want it, give yourself a space, and then away you go. So the pros and cons, the pros are it's small. The con is it's small. And the pros are it's a simple build. You can be very creative. You can put them anywhere. It's mobile, and it does have a resale value because it's mobile. And the cons are, yes, you've got a very small space. Creative design to fit in small spaces is very expensive. But in terms of great product out there, you can find some wonderful things to go in containers, which are very, very well appointed, and they'll be high end, and that's great. So, and you can't just stick stuff out of your house in your container. It's too big. Everything's designed to go in these huge spaces. Well, you haven't got a huge space, so you have to think about your design. But that makes you be more frugal, and it also makes you think about the things you really need. It's need versus want. I wanted a comfortable bed, so I built one, and I also bought a very comfortable mattress. So it was more expensive than it would have been if I just went to a package store and said, send me a bed. Yeah, because I don't want that. I want a good night's sleep. So that's what I did. So that's some of the pros and cons. I also worked alongside a builder, WTCCR, West Texas Construction, my friend Jason, and he worked with me, not for me. He wasn't a builder who said, well, no, you can't do that. This is the way we do this in building. I would say something like, I need this here because I'm thinking of doing this and this and this. And he goes, okay, we can do that, but it'll mean moving this. And what are you going to do about this? And he was always thinking ahead like I was. So he's a great guy, and he can do stuff. Yeah, I mean, fantastic stuff. So he's recommended. His link and contact details will be in the comment section below. So there you go. All right, so that's how we did that. The solutions can be provided by great people, and the solutions to me were, I have a multi-use space. I can live in it myself if I want to, and I can also rent it if I want to. And if somebody really had a wild hair and they wanted to buy the whole thing, well, great, I'd sell it. I've designed it so I can disconnect it in probably 30 minutes. So the whole thing, plumbing, sewage, everything. So, and like I said, don't forget about the math. If you're thinking of doing this, container homes are very cool. Look at some of the designs and things that are online. I mean, they are amazing. But also, when I look at them and think, wow, okay, it's in the middle of a forest on a rocky ledge. What did it take to get those things there, and how much did it take to weld them all together? Because that's the other thing. I didn't stack mine because I didn't want to get into the welding side. I didn't have to do any of that. So that's another associated cost. If you cut holes in a container, you better frame them with something. And the ideal stuff to frame them with is metal, because you can weld it solid, and then you frame with wood inside that. I watched another very interesting video by a company who make freezer containers, and the early ones, they studied out in wood before they spray foam insulated them. Mine are spray foam insulated because there's no better way to keep out any bugs, and it's a sealed metal box, but to keep out the bugs and also to protect the walls and give yourself some soundproofing and some fantastic insulation. So they sprayed theirs, and then I noticed in a later video that they'd gone to metal studs. So it took me weeks to get hold of the right man, and when I finally asked him, he said we couldn't stop the wood bending. He said every time we turned the chillers on, the wood would move one way. When we shut the chillers down and move the container, we'd get back and they'd move the other way. So they weren't consistent. That's why they use steel. So that's what they, and obviously if you've got a welder who's going to be welding lots and lots and lots of things for you, you can do that. I went to the Container Bar in Austin, Texas, which was fascinating, and there was some beautiful, beautiful, big, heavy welded doors put into that. I don't know who made them. I tried to find out, and I couldn't get hold of anybody. It was very difficult, but the configuration of that place was very strange. It looked like it wasn't finished, but it worked. But yeah, it was odd. It was inside a frame. It was very strange, but yeah. But the doors on it, I would have loved some of those doors. They were fabulous, but I could not find the man that made them, which is a real shame. So what we're going to talk about now, I want you to talk to me. What are you thinking about? Are you thinking about a container home? Do you think they're just a fad? Do you think they're a con? I mean, it's some people said it's just a scam. Well, not really. It's about thinking about what you actually want and having a space to put it in. Containers can be very, very creative and very, very good in very tight engineered spaces in cities. I've seen some fabulous container homes in cities which have solved building, planning, engineering and everything, all the problems all at once because of their modular nature. So you can do anything with a container. If I was younger, I'd probably live in a city in a container. It'd be fantastic because it'd be secure. But I don't live in a city and I enjoy being outside. So There you go. So please write to me with your questions. I love your questions. It's a two-way street. I want your commentary. I want your questions. I like communication. That's what this is about. And this is about my experience, passing my experience on, and trying to help you save time and money, because the way things are going at the moment, communication is lacking, and people are just blowing. I'm fed up of the apathetics, as I call them. People who just go, yeah, I'll do that for you, yeah, and then you hear nothing, or they don't call you back, or they just don't even show up. I mean, it's a massive problem where I live. Reliability. I mean, quite frankly, dear, some of them couldn't spell it. So sounds a bit frustrating, but it is. But I view it as human now, and if I can't get something done, I just move on and find the next guy. But I'm very lucky. I've got some great people, and I can recommend them to you if you're in Texas. Obviously, if you're further afield, there are lots of great companies, especially container companies around, especially in Texas. There's a few, and one guy is very honest. He made a video about exactly what it costs. And he said he spent $20,000 appointing his container, which is a 40-footer, no roof. And but he said if you got a builder, he used his own crew. He's a builder, so he's a contractor. So he used his crew, and he said if you went to a builder and said I want this, and I give you the specifications, which he gave you all the details of everything he used, you could add another $20,000 for him to do it. So that's a $40,000 container. So then you have to think about, wow, $40,000 for a single 40-foot container. Yeah, but this is where saving time and money come through using people's experience, but also math never lies. You've got to use your experience and look things up properly and find out what you can get done locally. Locally sourced stuff is always best, because you're dealing with people who live down the road, and you can talk to them. But if you just think you're going to buy one of these things online, or it's a good idea, and it'll be cheaper than a house, well, yeah, I'd think again. You can also go to the package stores and buy little wooden sheds. And, there's one at a well-known package store that may remain orange. And it was 16 by 20. It had a 14-foot garage door in it and a side door. And I thought, wow, look at that thing. And it was just under 10,000. But once you get it, you have to do something about where they drop it. That was installed. That was delivered and installed to your place. But you have to have somewhere to put it on and get that prepared properly. It was cheaply built. So when you get it, then you're going to have to do all the work inside it, insulate it, put the walls up, configure it the way you want, and do all the other things you're going to do in a normal house. So you've got to decide whether it's worth it, or whether you can do that, and what's the point, or whether you go down the container route and you want to tackle one of those. And they are cool. You can configure them any way you like. And if you have a fabulous space and you really have a vision about what you want to look at, and you want to configure it a certain way, they're a great thing to use, because they're engineered. You don't have to do any of the engineering. Nobody can say, well, your house isn't strong enough. I live in a hurricane zone, so I'm able to just lock the doors and walk away, because if there's one of those coming down, no, I'll be somewhere else. So that's why I chose mine. That's why I did what I did. And also there are other problems. There are other people, especially around, if you've got a 40-foot container, I want to hear from you what it was like when it was transported, if you had to transport it after it was finished. That's one thing I'm fascinating in. There is no video whatsoever around to show what a container, 40-foot fitted out finished container was like when it was delivered from somewhere else. Because if I think you use sheetrock in one of those, you're going to be in big trouble. So I would be very interested to see a picture of that. So if anybody out there has got one, let me know. And but I'm here just to help you. And remember, we've always got to remember the same thing, that creation begins with destruction, because we don't do boring. So I'll see you next time. I hope you've enjoyed the program. Any comments, questions, all the links are below. Press the like button, and we'll see you in episode 4. What's it going to be about? No idea. See you later. Bye.